lost up my drip. My diamonds is water, might come up, it's lit. Mightcomeup.com.
With that power, with that paranoia, is that when you first got introduced to drugs, or when did drugs start playing a part in your life at that time?
Truth is, I had addiction problems early on. Addiction problems usually exhibit themselves early on in people. It certainly did in me with the behavioural problems. But it's a progressive disease. It gets worse as you go along. I mean, my thing in them days, there was, we'd be out, all the usual stuff, a lot of cocaine, all of this stuff, which really, and the drinking and different stuff like this. So that, it's not hard to say that this stuff is not good for you within a lifestyle like this. But this is how it was.
Wow. So then you get in a situation where you are partaking in drugs. What was your view? Was life clear at that time? Was it unclear? Was it just fast? How do you recollect that period?
Life was very unclear then, Leonard, because, if you think that you are, you have to remember that the things that we was doing and the life that we was living, in many respects, being arrested by the police and going to prison for a few years was the least of it, because you'd be at war with certain people, or you'd have certain fallouts, and it was who catches who first and all that. This is a very, very violent, dark kind of a way to live, and so these was the times. You have to live different. You have to watch where you go, what you do. You're using technology to try and protect yourself, of course, and it's an accident waiting to happen, really. So should it be as well in that life. But that's that energy, that's that wrongness of that life, and living that life and the actions that produces.
You've referenced cheating death over 100 times. What was your first encounter with death, with cheating death?
There are many. I mean, the truth is, I can remember in them days. It's fair to say we would go into places daily where we really wouldn't know what was in there, what was waiting for us, or if we would come out. And there would always be that thing. You're living that life. You can be set up at any time, Leonard, right? But I'll give you one example. There was a club back in the day. It's called the Way In. That was in East London. Yeah, people would know it under the bridge, Kingsland Road, right near Oxton. Just going up to Oxton. And I was in there just one night. Normal thing. A lot of guys used to get in there. We'd have a good time. It was kind of a hangout place on the block, and we'd go there. We'd have a good time. And I just happened to leave there one night. I forget what happened, but I just left. I had to go somewhere. But I found out half an hour later, 3 people had gone in there, a little firm, guns and all that, looking for me. So I just missed them. So this is the kind of life that we're talking about.
So then you found yourself being sentenced to 20 years in a Category A prison. Can you recount or remember how that day felt when you first heard that verdict?
Yeah, I got 17 years. It was 17 years. 17. But I, we got that at the Bailey. I told you it was armed robbery. But this was from the flying squad, and they'd been actively trying to arrest elements, friends of mine, and a lot of them was all cleared up. Now even, there's books about this time, I'm in a few books of the time, and there's other stuff even about the police who arrested me, my family and other people around me at this time, but they was planting guns on people, fit up kits. The ghost squad went in there, they actually found a lot of stuff. They was taking money, from robberies. It was really, really, this was the environment of the day. There's books and everything about it out there, right? So this was what it was like. This was what it was like. So when I actually got the sentence, it was it's crazy, because I can remember standing there in the Bailey, and I had an epiphany. Like, I always thought that I would get a lump of bird. I didn't know how or when, but I always thought I was destined to get this. It was really crazy, surreal moment. And when they give you, 69 years we got all in all, but it ran concurrent, a lot of the sentences. We just went downstairs, I shook my codee's hand. I said, well, that's it now, and that was the start of it.
So you enter prison. What is that like?
I'd been used to prison because of my earlier times in prison. But when you get a sentence like that, I mean, a category A is treated much different than anyone else, you know. It's all about security. Everywhere you go, you have a little book with a red A on it with a photo. So they sign you over, so they know where you are in the prison all the time. Your visits are different. Everything's monitored different. You know, where you go, prisons you can go, how you're moved, everything's different, right? Because your escape must be made impossible. You know, I mean, category A's, it's still the same now. The definition of a category A is that they're highly dangerous to the security of the public, the police or the state. So they fall into that category. They're still the same now. That's just to give you an idea, you know, of the conditions. And but look, you know, the truth is, when you get a big sentence like that, it takes you years until it actually hits you, Leonard. And it's desperate. Hell on earth, really.
What impact did it have on you?
I cope very badly, is the truth. I think most people do, but you know, it affects people in different ways. But I cope very bad in the sense I got so rebellious. Because there was a lot of violence in there, you know. I mean, I see people get killed in front of me and everything in there. And there was a lot of gang stuff going on there, and a lot of it was a very, very dangerous place, right? Which you couldn't escape from, obviously. So, you know, you had to come forward. And of course, for I was someone who always come forward, that's what I'd done in there as well. So, you know, I had to go with that. You know, I had to roll with that, you know, and I had to live with the consequences of making them choices again. And it became very, very disruptive because I was even more angry. You know, in a sense, this is what kept me going. I know but when you're at your lowest state of, the lowest primitive state, you know, as a human being, of survival and all this stuff within this darkness, it's hard for people to relate of what that would actually be like. So, you know, I was put to special units. You know, I was moved different. I was treated differently. I'd done years in segregation. You know, there'd come a point I was with a lot of notorious prisoners of the day, as you know, Charlie Bronson, all of them. I know all these guys, and you know, then you know, I was classed as one of the most dangerous prisoners in the system at that time.
I mean, Charlie Bronson's is also referenced as one of the most dangerous prisoners in the UK. What was your experience with him while you was in there?
Charlie, there's a lot of stuff in the papers about me and Charlie. You know, I'm in his books. You know, I'm in Charlie's books, and you know, of course, there's a lot of stuff about Charlie in the press all the time. Charlie, I got on very, very well with Charlie. You know, it's like the thing about this press all the time. Yeah, you know, he's done all them years. You know, he's done a lot of time. Yes, he's done things wrong, but he has a lot of good sides to him, Charlie. He's got a lot of old school values, and it's not what people would think. I always got on very, very well with Charlie.
What did you do, or kind of during the time where you was doing this time, what were you telling yourself? Did you have an escape, or did you have an idea of getting out one day and having a normal life?
I couldn't see a future in there, Leonard. I really couldn't. You know. If you think I'd done 11 years and 9 months of that, I couldn't see 10 years in front of me. I couldn't see 6 years in front of me. I couldn't see what kind of human being I would be like that. How the world would be. How would it be like outside after that? It's a real dark place to be. But I always bettered myself. You know, I'd have the complete works of Shakespeare. I started my writing journey there. You know, I was always into very, you know, esoteric kind of books and studies. You know, I was always improving myself as much as I could, mentally, spiritually, physically.
What would you say the turning point in prison was for you?
I think there were a lot of turning points in prison, but prison for me then was more about survival, really, just to get out. I knew there were a lot more battles to come.
And, I mean, when I say turning point, I mean it was very easy to go into prison and to come back out, do the same thing, get yourself back in, which is a problem a lot of people suffer, being institutionalized and going back in, whether that's back into prison or back onto drugs. What was the turning point where you said you're not gonna go back in this cycle?
I knew that life was not for me. You know, I mean, I'd had many instances. You know, I had people who knew me 25 years and had set me up to get me killed. So I knew that this wasn't a life that I wanted. But I come to the stage where there was I couldn't hurt the people in my life no more. I couldn't hurt anyone no more. I just come to that time where I'd had enough.
Wow. So you've had many highs and many lows, and you've been in environments where you've dealt with death and you've spent time in prison. How have you learned to deal with fear and setbacks?
I think I've always took the best from people. Not people who didn't know what they was on about, but people who I thought really had something to offer. I'm still the same today. You know, and I can remember back in the day, you know, I was lucky enough to have some really good teachers in some ways. And, you know, when I was boxing training and stuff like that, you know, learning the art of boxing, and I was told really early on, fear is your friend. It's always going to keep you safe. It's never going to harm you, fear, right? But the way to deal with it is to turn it around at that point really, and don't recognise it as fear. Recognise it as excitement. You're alive. Translate it, right? This is one way of doing it. And there's a thing about fearlessness, because it's like human beings have habits, and when you've been through so much traumatic, you do get desensitized in the sense that fear in certain situations, they don't affect you the same way that they would of other people who wouldn't have been exposed to so much unremitting fearful circumstances all the time. So it dilutes, you're aware of it, but of course you get forced into a different kind of person.
During the time of your life of crime, in regards to those underworld activities, what kind of money were you making?
That life, I always say we'd make a lot of money, there's no question. But that life, it's more important to say that 1 minute you would have a fortune, the next day, you wouldn't have nothing again. This is the way that life was. So much money would come through your hands, but you don't respect money like that. So you was never destined to really keep it in the right way. It's like a river that moves.
So was it worth it?
Absolutely not. How can it be worth it? Even if, let's say you get £1 million, right, on a robbery or something like that, then you go away for 12 years of your life, away from your family, 12 years. Not even in maths is that going to add up anyway. It would never be worth that. Nothing is worth that.
So that being said, where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
It's important to say that, look, I come out, I transform my life. I went to university and business school. I learned how to build companies. I started from the bottom, really, worked my way up, brick by brick. When I'd made that decision to transform, I went on. I'm a peace ambassador. Last year I was nominated for an International Peace Prize. I have a best-selling book out, as you know, which is going to be a film. So I've transformed my life. But that was a process that's 10 years in the making now, right? But it can be done, right?
And would you say that this version that you're becoming has a lot less maybe monetary value as what your criminal life was providing, but has a better rewarding feel, or is it catching up to that?
No, I've got a clear answer, in no way, even in a monetary way, does my life now and what I achieve now even equate to any kind of money I used to get then,
And and how because a lot of people suffer with this. You know, a lot of people, young people,
Yeah.
that are involved in alternative, drug selling or, whatever it is they do. A lot of people don't really see the sacrifice of going down the straight line and what it takes, but the reward of what it means to actually get nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize and, be part of the change of other people. And I think it's important to kind of, let people know that it's worth it, because I think at that time, especially in your journey, it feels like you've had to take the long road in order to realize that being short-sighted has a big cost, right? And that led you to writing your first book. Tell us a bit about your book.
Yeah, I have the book here. I want to give you one. I'm going to give you one here, Leonard. I love your work and what you're doing as well. You're doing wonderful stuff. Here's a monkey puzzle tree here. So, I've signed you a copy here.
Thank
Right.
you very much.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
It's the monkey puzzle tree is a very human story. It details all my life. It's a biopic. It in no way glamorizes the life, but it really goes into it to really reveal, the emotions and the hooks and the traps, the solutions, more importantly, of what it's like to actually live a life like that, right? And there are bits of us scattered everywhere in it. I mean, it's already in pre-production, as you know, to be a major Hollywood film. It's all over the press. Yeah. We've had some massive names, attached to this script, and it's a very human story, as I say, but it's unique in that it shows the transformation and the redemption arc, and the elevation of me as a human being after overcoming so much adversity. It's a wonderful book. It's an international bestseller.
Amazing. What do people misunderstand about Stephen Gillen?
That's a great question, which no one has really asked me before like that, Leonard. I think a lot of us are misunderstood. I think human beings misunderstand other human beings too much all the time. That's the truth. I know that I certainly wasn't. And I know that people make a lot of judgments about people that are not even close. That's something to really look at when you want to be successful. Because I always look at the truth. I call it the shit list. We look at the shit list first. We go there first. We deal with the difficult problems first, because I know that's where the solutions are. That's where the pivot is. That's where the elevation is in solving these problems. So I never shy away from the difficult stuff. I always look to go there first, so I can get that out of the way and solve it quickly.
Oh, that's very powerful. What would the Stephen today tell the 15-year-old Stephen Gillen?
I would say time is the governance of all things. It really is the most precious commodity. Even this time here we have, Leonard, we don't get this back, right? So it's the most precious thing. People, places and things, money for instance, it comes and goes, right? It's like an energy, right? But time, to waste so much of it, I'd say, look, you can have a lot of trauma and a lot of pain, or you can change that, and you can let time work for you by enabling yourself to be the human being you're meant to be, serve others and build wonderful things in this life, but you can do it quicker. So that would be something I would like to tell a younger me.
Last but not least, who is Stephen Gillen?
Stephen Gillen is not what people think, and this is what I'm saying about people having so much sure ideas about other people. Many times they're not even close. Do a bit more research. I always do now, and I never make judgments. I'm a very humble, grounded person because of what I've been through, but I'm very courageous. I have very clear ideas about behaviour and about how things should be. Again, because of the life that I've led. But behind all that, for all what people say, really I'm very simple. It's always about others You know, I want to be the best human being I can be. For me, it's about developing all the time, you know, and I see so much. You know, and there are many people that say, wow, you know, it's really cool you do all that stuff. Yeah, and that's great, you know, that's great. But I see so much more, so I'm always going on to the next mountain to climb, you know. We're already onto another book now, and, you know, another stuff. And I've got a foundation coming now where we're really going to help the people I want to help. So this is the next marker that, you know, is a real privilege for me and the wonderful people around me to work towards that.
Stephen, I think it's incredible, your story, and the fact that you've been able to not only overcome, but be able to come through and be able to inspire the next generation, to prevent people from making similar mistakes or mistakes of their own. And I think the highest form, as Nipsey Hussle says, of inspiration is to inspire, and I think that's what you're doing. So listen, thank you very much for sitting with us. It's a big pleasure, and I'm looking forward to seeing this on Hollywood screens as well. The Monkey Puzzle Tree. I'm sure it's going to be a crazy, exciting and thrilling one, and of course we want to be up to date with your new books that come out as well. And we'll make sure we put this whatever might come up as well.
Thanks, yeah, you know, and as I said, you know, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for having me, and well done with your wonderful work.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Stephen Gillen, and you're watching My Come Up, the voice of entrepreneurial culture.